o'clock and we are recording.
Thank you.
No, it's okay. I mean, like, yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you about it afterwards, but yeah.
I'd like to call the February 1st, 2024 Corcoran Planning Commission meeting to order. Roll call, Brummond.
Here?
Lind.
Here.
Vandenide. Here. Lanterman here, and Commissioner Horn is not here. However, I'd like to note that we do have a quorum. I'd like to invite the attendees here to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any, and I'll direct this to my colleagues here, are there any amendments or questions that you have about the agenda? No? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, moving right along. I'd like to open the floor to the public to participate in our open forum tonight. This will give you the opportunity to address this commission on any items that are not already on tonight's agenda. So if anyone would like to address us, now's the time. No one? Bueller? No? Okay, well, let's see. With that, and is there anyone on Zoom?
Mr. Chair, Zoom participants are no longer able to participate in open forum or public hearing.
Okay, all right. Very good. With respect to the January 4th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting minutes, can I get a motion to approve those?
I'll make that motion.
And I will second it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that too will pass. I would like to open the public hearing on the Lister Garage CUP. This is city file number 23-031. And I will turn this over, unless I'm missing something.
No, you said you were going to open the public hearing, so I wanted to clarify, would you like the staff report? So.
Oh, yes.
All right, perfect. All right, go ahead.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item on the new business for tonight is the public hearing for the Lister Garage CUP. This application comes to the commission from Carrie Johnson of Johnson Design, Build, and Remodel on behalf of the property owners Dan and Peggy Lister. Next slide. So the request is the approval of a conditional use permit to allow for the construction of an accessory structure to be placed in the front and side yard of the property 26315 Julianne Drive with sidewall heights that exceed the 10-foot height limit of the side and front yard. Per the applicant's narrative, the accessory structure is expected to be used for personal hobbies, storage of personal vehicles, and garden equipment. The location of the structure is placed in portions of the side and front yard just north of the principal structure of the property. Its setbacks do exceed all of the required setbacks for accessory structures in the rural residential district. The property itself is roughly 5.4 acres, which allows for an accessory structure footprint of up to 2,563 square feet. The applicant is only requesting a footprint of 1,600 square feet. While the while the proposed sidewall height is 15 feet and does exceed the 10-foot sidewall height limit, this can be approved through a conditional use permit. The building itself has a height of, I believe it's 23 feet, which is less than the 35-foot height limit for the rural residential district. The applicant is proposing building materials of steel panels, pre-finished steel panels for both the siding and the roofing, and staff finds that the standards found in sections 1030 and 1070.020 for the CUP have been met with the proposed conditions of the approval. So staff would just like to add the condition of approval that the structure itself cannot be used for commercial or accessory living purposes without first obtaining proper city approvals. And now staff would recommend that you open the public hearing and take testimony on this item, and would recommend approval of the draft resolution.
Is that it? Okay. And Natalie, I have public hearing on here twice.
So you open the public hearing, and then we usually take a vote to close the public hearing?
Right, no, I get that, but I'm sorry, I have it listed twice here on my sheet, so.
I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
We have to open it first.
Oh, I guess you do open it before you close it.
Yeah.
I was out last month, so I'm kind of rusty, so please bear with me. There are candor in government. How do you like that? Can I, okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing on this. Are there any members here in the audience that would like to address us on this specific application? No? Okay, well, with that, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And with that, we will close it. Who would like to start the discussion?
I have a question for staff, if possible. And then that's really all I need covered, and then I'm willing to allow someone else to bring forth their questions. My question is I know we have done this before. So is there a reason why we don't just consider changing the sidewall height standard for accessory structures? Especially because that 10-foot limit doesn't allow for a recreational vehicle such as a camper or an RV, so.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Brumman, I don't disagree with that assessment. I actually brought it up, I believe, at the last council meeting, that there are some ways where we can simplify our code if that's a goal, and things like this where we typically always approve it, it's usually unanimous, isn't necessary to bring forward anymore. So that certainly could be one of the things. I believe it actually is on one of our staff things we'd like to look at on our priority list, but it just hasn't been raised to the top 5 of the year type thing. So.
And does it change the process significantly for the applicant, I guess would be the other?
Absolutely.
Right, yeah, okay.
My comments were that this report was great. I had the same exact question, and I am ready to make a motion. Do you have comments?
Nope.
Okay.
And I have nothing to add to the application. I thought that it was well-written and gave me all of the information that I was looking for. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve as submitted. Can I get a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That carries. Is the applicant here tonight? Yeah, congratulations. So. Natalie, do I need to close anything, or can I just move right to the next one?
right to the next
Okay,
one.
so I'd like to open the public hearing for,
What? Staff report.
take the staff report
I know
first.
that we're kind of missing some.
Usually
steps.
open the public hearing after the staff report.
Oh, okay, all right, go ahead, sorry.
So I don't know what is going on with that TV screen. I don't
Yeah.
know, someone, so I apologize for it. I think I can keep
It
up
is
those
the
so you can all
previous point.
see the plans on that screen, but if it's bothering you, there are screens behind you. Anyways, the second
You see,
item.
I wish I could blame the screen for not opening and closing. But I can't, I have a perfect screen right there. All right, sorry, go
No,
ahead.
no problem. So yes, the second item tonight that we will be holding a public hearing for is for Hope Ministries, and it includes a comprehensive plan amendment, rezoning, preliminary PUD plan, and preliminary plat as part of the land use request. The applicant is a couple of entities. It's Hope Community Church, Brian and Jackie Lothar, and Corcoran Investments LLC. So when I say the applicant, it's referring to all of those entities. And they are represented by Josh McKinney, who is in the audience tonight. The request is an approval for ultimately a 40-acre mixed-use development at the northwest corner of County Road 116 and County Road 30. And this development will surround the existing Hope Community Church site. A little bit more background, Hope Community Church is an existing institution, and the subject parcels were purchased over 20 years ago with a long-term vision to create a campus to provide places for people of multiple age groups to live, work, dine, and worship. The church was originally approved in 2001, and at that time the landowner did have a mixed-use concept plan that was shared as a part of those approvals, but nothing was approved back then, it was just a concept shared. And it is fairly similar to what is being proposed today. A daycare was approved at the church as a conditional use permit in 2005. And in 2012, a CUP and site plan amendment were approved for the site to allow a cemetery with 498 plots. Most recently, Hope Community Church has worked with the city to sell and site land for a water treatment plant across County Road 116 and a water tower which is near the church. Prior review that is probably important to call out is that the council did review this as a concept plan in January of 2023. The amount of commercial space and housing units have decreased in intensity since that concept plan. And an environmental assessment worksheet, EAW, was conducted and finalized in July of 2023. And the applicant, city staff, and Three Rivers Park District have worked diligently through a feasibility study that Three Rivers conducted regarding the underpass and trail location for the Diamond Lake Regional Trail. The Parks and Trails Commission reviewed this item in terms of the proposed park dedication just last month. Their recommendation was to accept the park dedication. They also wanted to look into relocating the trail, and we will talk about this a bit later in the presentation, but relocating the Diamond Lake Regional Trail to cross Oswald Farm Road so that it is on the north side of Oswald Farm Road instead of on the south side as it's currently shown. So this is a 4-phase development proposal and includes 641 housing units and a little over 80,000 square feet of commercial space. So 13 acres will be carved off for the Hope Community Church, the existing cemetery, and they also show space for a future cemetery expansion and a top lot on that property. And then the rest of it would be in a mixed-use portion where we'd include a couple different multifamily buildings. So multifamily A, which is about 148 units. We have a retail building of about 10,000 square feet, 2 medical buildings, another retail building. The all commercial uses, so the retail medical uses would have a shared parking lot. And then we have another market rate multifamily building of about 184 units. We have 2 senior housing, so the senior housing building, as it's noted on the plans, is 122 age-restricted units that provide a continuum of care from potentially independent living all the way to hospice, as well as 28 memory care units. The exact breakdown of those units is unknown at this time. It would have to be finalized with a final plat, final PUD when they come in for the essentially final site plan. But at this point, we will call it out in terms of our park dedication and calculations, we'd call it out as independent living to kind of assume the most intense use of the property. There's also an active senior building, which is about 110 age-restricted units, but those would all be independent living seniors. There are villas proposed, which includes 20 detached single-family senior houses, as well as 6 attached twin homes, and these would be age-restricted. There are also 51, which is a change from what was in the staff report, because they have already made some of the adjustments asked for in the plans. So now there's 51 townhomes instead of 52, and those are not age restricted. They would be market rate, and the buildings range from 6 to 8 units per building. Again, what goes through the site includes Three Rivers Diamond Lake Regional Trail and an underpass to cross County Road 116, and then a combination of public and private paths are found throughout the site. So this is the site plan. North is actually not where you think it. So yeah, north is to the right. And so yeah, we have one of the multifamily buildings. I don't think you can see let me put my pointer on. We have one of the multifamilies right here, a retail building with a potential drive-through, 2 medical buildings, another retail, the second market rate multifamily, the row homes, 20 detached villas, 6 twin homes, and then the active senior building, the senior housing building, memory care, and then we have the church.
Can I just pause? Can the people in the back row see this screen? The big screen? Okay. No? Because we could maybe turn it a little bit too. I just want to make sure everyone could see a screen. Can everyone see a screen? Okay. Thank
Just be
you.
careful because sometimes we can unplug it and then there's no screen.
He knows what he's doing.
Ever so gingerly. That's good, that's good.
Government in action right there,
Perfect.
folks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Teamwork.
Makes the dream work.
Is that better for people? Cool. Sorry, Natalie.
No.
There's a seat up here.
Okay. So the comprehensive plan amendment is for essentially re-guiding part of the church sites. Currently, all 20 acres of the existing church site is guided as public, semi-public in the 2040 comprehensive plan. The 3 other parcels in the proposal are currently guided mixed use. The applicant requests the northern 15 acres approximately to be re-guided as mixed use to allow for the proposed variety in senior housing units. This is ultimately a policy decision that has a high degree of city discretion, and the factors that should be considered in this decision are provided in the staff report. And staff recommends approval of the future land use change, as it will allow reasonable development and will simply extend the boundary of the existing mixed-use land use designation in this area to move westward and provide that transition to mixed residential, which is off to the west. Additionally, the higher density consolidated in this area will help to contribute to the city's overall density goal and would be factored into the 2050 comprehensive plan update. The next portion of the request includes the rezoning. The properties are currently zoned public institution and general mixed use. The entire site, including the church, is requested to be rezoned as a PUD district. And the only reason for that is because there is a tunnel connection proposed between the church and the senior housing building. And so because of that connection, it really needs to be in the same district. However, the PI standards would still apply to that church with the exception of that setback waiver essentially for that tunnel. If the CPA, so comprehensive plan amendment, if that is approved, the rezoning will be consistent with the underlying land use districts. So again, the Hope Community Church would still be held to public institution standards, and the rest would be in accordance with the mixed-use land designation, with the deviations from standards as approved with the PUD plan. There are several standards the city must consider when deciding to rezone to a PUD, and again, those are outlined in the staff report. This is another policy decision where the city has a high degree of discretion. So staff believes there are findings of fact that can support the reasoning should the comprehensive plan be approved. Comprehensive plan amendment be approved. So one thing I want to go over, as it comes up a lot in our discussions, is the density. Mixed-use density calculations in the 2040 comprehensive plan assume approximately half of the mixed-use acreage will develop at a density of 8 to 30 units per acre. So what that means is this site, as it was originally shown in our comprehensive plan, anticipated between 100 to 378 housing units on these properties. With the requested comprehensive plan amendment, the estimated net acreage of the site is at about 43.74 acres. So this now would translate to an estimated 175 to 656 housing units for the site. The applicant's proposal includes 641 housing units. And in terms of when you take the residential portion of the project divided by the housing units proposed, it comes back at about a density of 19 units per acre, which is within the 8 to 30 units per acre projected. So the proposed density does comply with the mixed-use land designation to support the comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning. As far as the preliminary PUD plan, a planned unit development plan, there are several items discussed in more detail in the staff report. So I decided to focus this portion of the presentation on the flexibilities being requested, as well as the benefits being proposed, with the idea being where flexibilities are not specifically requested, the applicant is expected to comply with what our code reads today. So the flexibilities specifically requested in the applicant's narrative include a deviation in lot square footage standards for the villa units, a setback reduction for multifamily and commercial buildings along the county roads, a shared parking for the commercial use. Flexibility for this is allowed by right in our general mixed-use district without needing a variance. Parking reductions throughout the project area, and again, some flexibility for this is allowed within the GMU district without needing a variance, so that's handled at the city council's discretion per the language in the code. So allowance of townhomes, twin homes, and detached villas in the GMU where only apartment buildings would be allowed otherwise. Flexibility to shift requiring landscaping material from some portions of the site to allow for improved buffering at the edges of the site. Relief from a portion of code that requires a grade separation on all housing units accessing the building on the first level. It's a general mixed-use site design standard that it doesn't seem to really be fit for specifically villas, and it's probably something more that makes sense if you had a true mixed-use building, which is not really being proposed for the site. The flexibility from landscaping, island, parking-based basin standards that are found within our Northeast District Plan for the commercial parking lot, and then flexibility from the restriction on drive-through lanes not being allowed to abut a public right-of-way. So several flexibilities were further narrowed down during the staff review, which is typical. As far as the commercial and multifamily buildings, those lot standards, as proposed, they would need a front setback from major roadways, the county roads, of 50 feet with enhanced landscaping. I did say 40 feet in the staff report. However, the applicant confirmed that there was a measuring error in the plan set that I had, and they are asking for 50 feet. They're not asking for 40. So it would be a reduced setback of about 10 feet with enhanced landscaping. Maximum principal building height of 50 feet at the minimum setback for specifically the multifamily buildings. The commercial buildings can only be 2 stories, and that's based on the parking that we'll get to in a bit. The public institution side setback would not be applied to the underground connection between the senior housing building and the church, as I said earlier. For the detached villas, they would need a minimum lot area of 5,285 square feet, a minimum lot width of 44 feet. They are proposing a side setback of 7.5 feet. And then for the attached villas, a front setback of 25 feet, side setback of 10 feet, rear setback of 25 feet. So pretty close to the standards that we would apply to I think, I forget which district it was, but in one of our higher density districts, but there are just like deviations from it. And then clarifying for the attached villas, these are all grouped within a common lot, so these setbacks would be measured from the affected lot line of the common lot. These would not be applied between the twin homes, essentially. There's not going to be a 7.5 foot setback within a twin home, that's what I'm trying to say. This is an image just to try to break up all the words that you're reading across the screen. This was provided by the applicant just to provide some context on the height. Just to try to give you an idea of how it fits within the actual neighborhood. So just to point out, the water tower is approximately 160 foot tall, and that's currently being constructed. And then this is the existing church with a 65 foot bell tower. And then it gives you some context of how tall the senior and multifamily buildings are in comparison to some of the other structures already present on the site. And the applicant might also speak to that a bit too tonight. And then back to some of the flexibilities being asked for the townhomes. The minimum lot area would be about 4,500 square feet per unit. So what you do is you take the common lot with all the townhomes and you divide that by the number of townhomes being proposed, the units being proposed, and that average has to hit 4,500 for each lot. So that's how you get that. And typically we require 5,000 square feet for townhomes. For this, they're proposing 4,500. Front setback from a major roadway. Again, staff report says 40 feet. That is actually going to be 50 feet. They're going to adjust their plans accordingly. And the front setback from other streets would be 25 feet. Side setback of 10 feet, rear setback 25 feet. For the parking setback for the multifamily buildings is not quite met. Typically, we would require 25-foot setback along streets for the parking. And the small, I think it was multifamily, the one on County Road 116 is only 10 feet from Oswald Farm Road. The one closer to County Road 30 is 16 feet from Oswald Farm Road. So the minimum setback to have this be approved as proposed would have to be 10 feet. No interior setback would be required for the shared commercial parking lot. Arguably, this is an oversight in our parking ordinance, as shared parking is allowed in our general mixed-use district, and the general mixed-use district has no minimum side setback. So it seems to be an area of conflict between our parking regulations and what we say we allow in the general mixed-use district. The parking setback along Oswald Farm Road for the senior housing would be 15 feet. And then they are requesting some parking reductions. So the villas in the townhomes are arguably more than parked than what we require for our code. And they are proposing an additional 8 guest parking spaces for the townhomes. And then for the multifamily buildings that are market rates, they are proposing 2 spaces per unit. For the senior housing, they're proposing 1.5 spaces per unit, and that is consistent with flexibility we provided to St. Therese and was confirmed with a parking study.
I'm sorry, so what, is that like a car spot and a bicycle, or what is 1.5 parking spaces? What is that?
No,
Is that like
That's
a,
for the senior
a
housing.
car
That's
and a
the
wheelbarrow?
no,
or-
that's the formula. So it comes out to an even number, and they'd round up if it's not. So if it comes out to be 200.5 units,
Okay.
they'd have to do 201 spaces.
Oh, okay.
But it's just the formula. So basically, it's kind of a general rule of thumb that senior housing, particularly when we get into the continuum of care, they're not driving as much.
Sure.
So you don't need as much parking. So that's where you're getting the 1.5.
So that's the half.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Although, you know, bicycle parking wouldn't be horrible.
Well, go kart. Yeah.
All of them have motorcycles.
For the commercial parking lot, they're proposing 415 shared spaces. Again, that's why staff would want to cap how many levels are in those commercial buildings, because with additional square footage, you theoretically would need more parking. And our engineer confirmed if they keep it at 2 levels of commercial space on those medical buildings, that 415 shared commercial spaces would work to serve the commercial area as a whole. So then this just gives you a zoom in of that commercial parking lot.
Can we ask how many acres the commercial is? Or that, I can't ask questions.
So the public hearing would be a place to answer that question. I'd have to add it up real quick in terms of the acreage, but I can tell you how much square footage there is, but I can certainly do that. So preliminary PUD plan again, so we're almost done with the flexibility. The minimum private drive length of 20 feet was identified as a potential area for flexibility in the staff report. However, the applicant has since submitted plans that show at least 22 feet can be accommodated on the lot. So no flexibility is being requested at this time for that standard. I did find several areas where the general mixed use standards seem to conflict with our Northeast District plan. And it was difficult to determine which one would be like a higher standard to hold them to. They're just different, but they seem to conflict within the same space. So I do think that it would make sense to clarify in any approval where there is a conflict, which standard we want to prevail. Personally, on a professional level, I believe the Northeast District design standards accurately reflect more of the public desires captured as part of the public engagement process that was very recent for our Northeast District plan. The general mixed use standards were established in 2004, and I don't know how much of that was informed by public outreach. So I recommend in the resolution that we allow the Northeast District standards to prevail where there's a conflict. Specifically, as I identified in the staff report, there's a landscaping buffer requirement between parking and public sidewalk, letting the Northeast District prevail there. And then building design requirements such as the articulation and building standards, just letting that Northeast District prevail. Additionally, garages seem to be a little wonky with the way that we are proposing the villas. They're 44 foot wide lots, and there's a 15-foot setback. So we're looking at a 20-foot wide garage to be able to fit 2 cars in there, which is about a 70% of the viewable ground floor, and our standard's 55. To have 55 means we're looking at 1-car garages. And on the flip side, our attached houses, we require a minimum garage size of about 422 square feet. So we might actually require, if we go by the rule of the code, we would end up requiring larger garages on our attached homes than we would allow on the villas. So it just doesn't make sense. There needs to be some flexibility there if we approve the villas as proposed. So as it's currently written, allowing up to 70% of the viewable ground floor on the detached villas to allow for a 2-car garage, and then basically removing the minimum garage size. We can certainly tweak that, but as it's proposed, removing the minimum garage size and just requiring that they have a 2-car garage, and then they can figure out the rest from there. Lastly, the signs for the development would require some flexibility from our sign ordinance. They are showing 4 monument signs throughout the development for the commercial users, and then our code is somewhat silent on how to handle residential subdivisions or uses within the GMU area. So allowing one monument sign for each residential area would have to be something specifically allowed in any resolution. And then splitting the 10% front facade limit for wall signs for the commercial uses to allow for signs both on the front and rear of the buildings, but still keeping it basing the limit of the sign area on 10% of the front facade space. For the proposed benefits, the applicant has worked to provide an architectural transition between existing uses and the proposed development by locating taller buildings as far away from the existing single-family homes to the north. The PUD would allow for single-family homes and townhomes closest to the existing single-family neighborhood, where the GMU would only allow multifamily homes by right today. Construction of an east-west connection to, it's called out as Hope Way on the plans. I actually spoke with our addressing, our staff member that handles addressing. It would actually be 100th Avenue. But that east-west connection would provide relief from traffic that otherwise may be routed through Hunter's Ridge whenever the property to the west develops. And coordination with city staff to shift the existing right-of-way of Oswald Farm Road to allow for more economical construction of water utility lines in the area. Improvement of existing drainage conditions for neighbors to the south of the project area through stormwater routing. And establishment of a significant tax base and services to serve Corcoran and its residents well into the future. Provide a trail easement in excess of 20 feet to support the Three Rivers Diamond Lake Regional Trail and a grade separating crossing at County Road 116. The project serves as a vital link for future development in the city of Corcoran. The applicant also proposes screening of drive-through lanes that abut a right-of-way in exchange for the flexibility request to have that be allowed. And then the flexibility in applying the required landscaping across the site would allow for more buffering near the edges of the site, and the flexibility to bypass the parking island parking bay requirement within the commercial parking lot will allow for more unified pedestrian walkways throughout the parking lot. This is just another site plan, just showing how the intensity basically takes a step down as we get to that existing single-family residential neighborhood. This property in specific, again, can be today by right. An apartment building could go instead of the townhomes. The townhomes cannot go there by right. And so the flexibility is to allow for less density near that northern area. The preliminary plat is proposed as 43 lots and 1 outlot. There is a condition of approval that outlot A, which is right here in the villas, be absorbed by the neighboring lots. And then approval of conditions noted in the staff report may result in some changes to the lot layout. It may also affect the unit count. So there could be some changes to the site plan and plat in order to account for the preliminary PUD plan approvals. And so basically a condition of approval for the plat includes compliance with whatever is approved for the preliminary PUD plan. I do want to take a moment to talk about the Diamond Lake Regional Trail a bit further. So our comp plan does show a trail along County Road 116 that was a placeholder for the Diamond Lake Regional Trail because they hadn't done their master planning process yet, but that has been finalized in the last couple of years. And it does show cutting through the Hope community site with some kind of grade separated crossing at County Road 116 before it crosses and then moves northeast towards Bellwether. The location has changed as a part of the feasibility study that Three Rivers carried out. It was further north on the site with potentially the crossing at Hunter's Ridge. However, due to several constraints, it was found that the crossing really should occur midway, so between the commercial users and the multifamily building that's proposed. And there's a couple reasons, including utilities, sight lines, as well as just the ability to have the next property across the street that hasn't been developed yet take on the trail rather than going through an existing neighborhood to the north. So now it aligns south on the building. The plan shows this blue line as far as the typical trail easement, that'd be 20 feet wide. But this underpass is going to require retaining walls and a significant additional width. So according to the memo received from Three Rivers, they have finally identified a need for a 55-foot wide easement for that underpass. Currently they're showing 40, but the applicant has said that they're willing to work with Three Rivers to make that finalized. City typically takes only 20 feet wide trail easement, so that is fairly significant additional easement. For park dedication purposes, we would take our typical 20-foot wide easement, and the Three Rivers would have to obtain the rest of it. But as a public benefit, the applicant wants to propose providing it all now so that it can be ready to go whenever Three Rivers is ready to do that underpass, to just kind of have a more unified design and have a cleaner process. So there is ongoing discussion as to whether the trail should be located along the north side versus the south. The idea being there's less driveway crossings, potentially less traffic from the church. However, the concern being, and it's discussed in the city engineering memo, that we're crossing right here at a bend in Oswald Farm Road, and it's mid-block, and that should be avoided per the city's adopted pedestrian crosswalk policy. So staff believes it continues to recommend locating that trail on the south side, as at least it conflicts less at the drive entrances, because they should be at a stop traffic condition since they're turning left, so they have to slow down naturally anyways, and they're watching out for walkers versus having it mid-block.
Hopefully.
Yeah, but either way, it's not a perfect, it's not perfect either way. But if a crossing from Hope Church does move forward, then staff recommends considering shifting it further southwest so it's not located at that bend. That's the big concern. So potentially having it right there if that is truly desired by Planning Commission and City Council. So thank you so much for your patience. I know that's a lot, and it doesn't fully capture everything in the 40-page staff report. So at this time, staff recommends opening the public hearing and taking testimony. The Planning Commission can choose to recommend approval, make changes to, or recommend denial the following drafts. So we have a draft resolution approving the comprehensive plan amendment, the ordinance rezoning to a PUD, the resolution approving findings of fact for rezoning, resolution approving the preliminary PUD plan, and the resolution approving preliminary plats. So you do have to approve them technically in that order, or you can deny them altogether. And again, recommendation. I apologize, I was wrong. You would make a recommendation to approve or deny. Additionally, if a denial is recommended, then the Planning Commission should provide staff findings of fact to form that resolution that would be forwarded to council. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Natalie. I'd like to open the public hearing for agenda item 6B. This is an intricate multi-step application for a comprehensive plan amendment, rezoning, preliminary PUD plan, and preliminary plat. The city file number is 23-028. So with that, I'd like to open the public hearing. If there are members in the audience who would like
I actually
to...
have cards to call
Oh,
people
you have
up.
cards?
Yes, to try to keep
You guys
it
filled
organized.
out
Yes.
cards already?
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, and we would do the cards first, and then anyone who hasn't filled out a card like to speak would certainly still have a chance to speak. One thing I'd like to add, the applicant does have a brief presentation as well. He is going to keep it short. Did you want that before or after we take comments?
You know, I think that that's a good question, and I guess what I would like to see is the applicant's presentation, because then that way the audience members would have an opportunity to ask their questions after being fully informed.
Absolutely.
So,
And I would
okay.
agree.
All right.
Good, all right. Command decision. All right, sir, thank you. Can you please state your name and who you're representing?
Sure, yes. Thanks so much for having me here tonight. My name is Josh McKinney. I'm with Measure Group, a consultant for the applicant. So certainly appreciate the time, and I will keep it brief because Natalie's report was very comprehensive, but do want to add a couple of minor items. So
If I
Natalie's-
could interrupt you, the Measure Group,
Measure Group, yep.
and you're a consultant, what kind of a consultant
Well,
are you?
I'm a landscape architect by training and trade, but
Okay.
my consultant group, the consulting firm I run is a land development consulting firm.
Okay.
So I can work on this type of
How to
project.
get things approved.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, fair enough.
So my apologies, I don't have control of the report, so I'm gonna have to lean on Natalie tonight. As I mentioned, I'm with Josh McKinney with the Measure Group. Our civil engineer, Mark Anderson from Sambatech, is also here this evening. And then I also just wanted to note that we have a traffic consultant on our team that had prepared the parking, their shared parking memorandum, as well as some other reports as well. So this, Natalie touched on this briefly, but just project timeline and kind of where we're at in this. Hope Community Church had purchased the land back in the year 2000. Actually had sold a portion of that land to the developer for Hunter's Ridge. And then fast forward all the way to 2023, we started with a concept plan review with the Corcoran City Council. At that meeting, one of the things that was identified was, hey, this is a complex project that has a lot of moving parts. Potentially, this is a good avenue for the use of a PUD. And so that was one of the things that we kind of came out of that meeting, as well as, gauging support from the council at that point in time on things like heights and setbacks and those kind of things. So that's where we gained some confidence to proceed with the EAW, which Natalie mentioned we completed. We also engaged the neighbors, both with a meeting on October 11th, as well as just ongoing discussions through kind of some emails and back and forth. Completed the Parks and Trails, and now we're here tonight.
If I could interrupt you, how
Yes.
many neighbors attended this meeting and how did you notify them of
Great
the-
question. Yes, so we notified them. We had we had an in-person meeting at the church itself. I can't remember the exact total. I believe it was 15 attendees at that meeting.
Okay.
And then from that, I also kind of have been communicating with several neighbors that had emailed over the past, I guess, since October, just with various questions on the project and kind of current status, questions on what we were actually trying to pursue relative to flexibilities and some other items that way. And I guess one item I would just want to make sure I include here is, and I shared it at that neighborhood meeting as well, one of the things that with what I do is, my job is to communicate change a lot of times. We're changing a development pattern for a site, or we're communicating what is going to change, in this case from a cornfield to a pretty significant development. And oftentimes, unfortunately, the general public, it's a personal thing to them. These people live next to this, or in some cases have lived next to this property for several years. And one of the things that struck me at that meeting, and has continued throughout, the months afterwards, was how respectful the questions I would get and the tone of voice that we would get from the public that had bothered to at least ask the question and interact with us at that point in time. So I certainly want to thank the neighbors that have communicated with me and have asked questions. It's been honestly rewarding to be able to kind of guide the process, or guide them through the process, because it's not something that's typical. It's not something that everybody goes through all the time. And so a major kudos to the people that have chosen to engage in that process and ask questions and be curious before being judgmental, at least. So I hope that's still the case tonight, and I look forward to having that discussion with the neighbors and the people that are concerned about this project from date forward.
So if I could, what
Please.
affirmative steps did you take to notify neighbors of this meeting? 15 sounds like a small number to me.
Yeah, so part of that, was it 18? Thank you.
No, I was just gonna say, there is information in our packet that recaps it and then how many were coming, and it's a part of the requirement now, so
No, I get that. I want to hear it from him.
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah, so we did it, we worked with the city to basically determine the proper notification, and then had individually sent out notices to anyone that fell within that
Sure.
radius.
How many notices were sent?
I believe it was 33, I was off, once again, off the top of my head,
Okay.
whatever the numbers that was on it, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, of
Go
course.
ahead.
So next slide. So one thing I just wanted to, once again, you've seen the plan, maybe this is just a bit easier to read with color. And I'll run through kind of what we were thinking and how we got here today. But one I wanted to build on was that up until recently, and I think maybe Natalie has the date, the portion that we were requesting a comprehensive plan amendment on, to mixed use, was a mixed use. There was a rezoning that had occurred when the Hope Community Church was rezoned to public institutional. One of the requirements as a part of that zoning district is that the underlying comprehensive plan has to be adjusted. So historically, the entire property had been guided mixed use. So we're requesting a comprehensive plan amendment to mixed use, but it's back to mixed use, is how we looked at that. With that, Natalie did a great job of running through the uses, so I don't want to repeat them unless there's specific questions. But really, if you want to go to the next slide, Natalie?
Yeah.
Our goal with this site and kind of the layout was to do exactly what Natalie mentioned, which was to really work the intensity of our project, both in height and density, down as far as we possibly could to the adjacent neighbors. We had hoped to utilize both the existing tree buffers, I don't know why those lines are showing weird, but the existing trees as well as, next slide, where required or where necessary, enhance those both understory and overstory buffers to the neighbors. And some of those buffers actually include, excuse me, both a 30-foot buffer as well as a 6-foot privacy fence. In the case of this area here, just to the north of the villas, that fence is also on top of a retaining wall. So there's really almost a full screening from ground floor to those units. Safe potentially for the roof of those units. So as Natalie mentioned, we have enhanced landscaping where these multifamily buildings were requesting that deviation. We're showing a 50-foot setback. As Natalie mentioned, there's just a dimensional error there. We're actually 60 feet from the current right-of-way line. We're 50 feet from the right-of-way line after we have to dedicate per Hennepin County standards. So I just want to put that in there that we're 60 feet from the current line. Next slide.
If I could though.
Please.
So, 10 feet though is required by county statute, right?
We had to dedicate 10 additional feet of right-of-way
Right.
on both frontages, yep.
Right, but you had to do that, right?
We had to, yes.
Okay, yeah, so that wasn't just in the plan, that was a requirement, right?
Yeah, it's not a city standard, it's for the future dedication of right-of-way from the county.
Okay,
Yes, correct, that extension essentially, or that setbacks from the new property line, we'll call it.
okay.
That will occur once this plat is recorded, or if this plat is recorded,
Okay.
Once again, not sure why the lines are off here, but this exhibit is meant to show several of the connections, one of which, maybe zoom out a little bit, Natalie?
Oh, sure.
Obviously, what we're calling Hope Way, we're trying to really diminish or even eliminate the need for a roadway connection to any future development that's headed west, where Hunter's Ridge would be on the north. There is actually right-of-way already there. That's city-owned. So that didn't feel right, especially since we needed to also provide a major trunk sewer line that essentially would traverse our site. So we're providing right-of-way for that as well. And then also making, in the south, making a connection back at 30 that would provide access not only to our site, but as well as future development to the west. And then lastly, Natalie showed the section before, but this was more of a section really just to show the kind of the relationship relative to both horizontal and vertical positioning of our proposed buildings compared to both the water tower and then the existing church. So one thing that was interesting when we started looking at this is the church's current bell tower is actually taller than any proposed building that we would have on this site. So, let's see. With that, I guess I could stand for questions now or wait until after public hearing. We do, this is just in case we needed this, Natalie, we can.
Okay, we can close out of it, sounds good.
Yeah, so I appreciate your offer. If you don't mind, I'd like to hear from the public, and then I'm pretty certain we'll have some follow-up questions
Fantastic.
for you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so for starting off the public.
Are we reading the cards, or
I'm
are
not,
we just-
people who've submitted a card, I'm just gonna read off their name if they'd like to approach the podium.
Okay.
That would be their chance to do it. And then after the cards are done, we can open up the floor to anyone who hasn't provided a card.
Perfect.
Ted Schmidt, did you want him to speak on anything?
I guess,
So if you could, go ahead and just use the microphone and then provide your full name and address for the record.
I'm Ted Schmidt. We live, my address is 20155 County Road 30. We are the farm just south of where this development is going on. I guess, how do you guys plan to handle all the traffic that's coming in all this? I mean, is 30 gonna change? Is 116 gonna change in the future with all the traffic that's gonna be coming into these places? And I guess if you guys are rezoning, the farm to the west of the church, the farm to the south to the east, I guess I don't know what are we supposed to do if we want to keep farming? I mean, is this going to affect anything with this whole development?
Natalie, do you have any feedback?
So typically, Mr. Chair, we take questions, and then once we close the public hearing, I try to address as many questions as possible at that time.
Okay.
So-
Sure, that's fair. I don't know if you heard what she said, but what we're going to do is we're taking notes. We're going to allow everyone else to ask their questions. We're going to close the public hearing, and then we'll give you some feedback at that time.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you
you.
for coming tonight.
All right, Jason Bartels.
Could you maybe put up that first slide that you have the site plan, just to kind of help provide any clarity in this opinion? No. Oh, sorry. That first shoot was before.
This one.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jason Bartels. I live on Hunter's Ridge, 19795 Hunter's Ridge. So I'm actually over here.
Oh.
All right, so I'm on this side of Hunter's Ridge on the east side of 116. Okay, but thank you for including us and our neighbors in this opportunity. I'm the representative for the residents on the east side of Hunter's Ridge, as I showed you. We've known for some time about the development plans for this area. With that development comes many new residents, new vehicles, and obviously with vehicles comes traffic and congestion. Exactly the same point already made. Hard to estimate volume, but it's my understanding that national studies say the average is 10 vehicle trips per dwelling per day. Phase 1, the multi-family 4-story unit, which is, I think, right in here, is slated to contain 184 units. So that equates to over 1,800 trips per day to and from that one building alone. When the other phases get completed, that volume grows by a multiple of 4. And that's not even counting the medical buildings and the retail buildings and all the traffic that already comes to and from the church and the daycare that's with the church. The bulk of that traffic is going to be competing for access at the intersection of 116 and Hunter's Ridge. Right here. All of this is going to go right there. Now, there is an access down here on the plan to County Road 30, which is great. I'm excited about that. But if I'm correct, that doesn't open until phase 3. So that's later in the plan. Now maybe that's changed, I don't know. We know humans are creatures of habit, and obviously if this comes later and everybody goes this way, they're gonna keep going that way, because that's what people do. That intersection and the tremendous amount of traffic utilizing it will cause distinct safety concerns and cannot begin to safely bear anywhere near the volume of traffic. Westbound Hunter's Ridge will have an extremely difficult time turning south on 116. County Road 30 and 116 intersection currently gets excessively backed up right now as well, and that's not even considering this extra volume of traffic. Now, I'm not sure what the solution is, maybe extra traffic lights. Even better would be multiple accesses to 30 or 116 rather than essentially one. Thank you again for the opportunity to express our concerns about the traffic volume and increased safety risk for the residents of Corcoran. We respectfully request as this project moves forward, the Planning Commission and the City Council keep this important issue in the forefront of your decision making. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I don't have a name, but the owners of Outlot B of Serenity Meadows, it sounds like you want to have some comments? Oh, perfect.
To the purpose.
I don't know if you can pull up a picture of the land that we own. I think it's on page 43.
Oh.
We're Mitch and Carrie Johnson. We live on 116 right down from this entrance, and our house would be
Here, I'm gonna just pull up a map, so 1 second.
so a couple things is already right now pulling on 116 between 7 and 8 in the morning. It's cars after cars after cars after cars, and I sit there for minutes on end just pulling my own driveway, not mentioning all these houses coming up ahead. So yeah, we're right here in this house. But then we also own this lot back here that has a driveway easement that has a townhome smack right in front of it. So I'd just like to bring that up, that we do have access there. There's not a driveway currently, but there is an easement from the church from before when the land was previously bought. One last thing, if that did go through, is the snowmobile trail still going down 116? How do we roll out that? So, thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Sean Tharp.
My name is Sean Tharp. I live at 20420 Duffney Circle. Can you zoom in a little bit? Oh, there we go. I'm just like right down in here. I don't recall, I've been out of town for a little bit, but I don't recall getting, I didn't recall getting any notice, and I'm like within a quarter mile of the development, so I don't know. I have owned commercial properties in the past, and when I did a CUP, we had to notify in a different community within a certain distance of that particular parcel. So I don't know, that may be food for, to hear 30 people got notified is quite a small number in comparison. But I grew up in Maple Grove, moved to Corcoran in 1997. I'm on 10 acres. Over the years, I've talked to a lot of people. Corcoran's been I don't know the average person per acre in Corcoran, but I have 10 acres and there's 2 people living on it, and not saying that that's going to always change or stay the same forever. Sorry. Natalie's numbers earlier was quoting, can you show me the picture of the development? She was saying that the density was based on 40 acres. I kind of consider this project, you've got an existing church here, and you've got a nice, very well, laid out, very attractive plan, but like the church is already 13 of the 40 acres. The commercial side's about another 10. So you've got 641 homes on roughly 20 acres, give or take, I don't know, an acre or two. That's far in excess of 16 home sites per acre. And I don't know what the average is per home, but you've got 641 homes. I gotta believe there's at least 2.5 people living in each one of those homes on average. So you're talking 12 to 1,300 people living on 20 acres, which equates to, if there's over 30 homes per acre, that's like 70 people living on 1 acre parcel in Corcoran, which, I don't know about you, but that's pretty excessive, okay? Not only that, but you've got 641 homes, and as Mr. Bartle says, I don't know if it's true or not, but 641 homes, if each one does 10 trips, that's 6,400 trips per day. Not to mention the commercial business here doing, if it's a medical complex, I don't even know and I don't have a problem with the traffic for the businesses. It's just, I'm asking as a long-term resident to, they have a great plan, it looks, fancy and everything. I do question the people that live on Hunter's Ridge here. You've got $1 million homes, et cetera, and then you're gonna butt out 200, 250, 300. I don't know the price of these townhouses, but I'm begging you to not reduce the easements and think about ways to, like, I don't know about you, but like parking a car in a 20-foot garage is like next to impossible. Make sure that people can get their cars in the garages. Make sure there's no reason that you can't take 15 houses here and turn them into 12 houses and give everybody a little bit more breathing room. That would then lower the density in the community. Maybe have 2 floors instead of 3 floors on the apartment complex. Slightly reduce, that would also greatly reduce the number of traffic coming in and out of the development. I'm just begging you to limit the number of exceptions to the rules. The rules are there for a reason. You created these rules, and if there's 1 or 2 or 3 exceptions or variances, that's fine. I'm just begging you not to allow 30 or 20 or 30 and exceptions. Okay. So, anyways, I just want to express my opinion. I grew up, raised my kids here, and hearing that there's going to be 60+ people per acre on a house and and some land, quarter of a mile from my house, seems like it's a little excessive. I grew up. I've got a lot of friends that were in the planning and zoning at Maple Grove, and I like a lot of things that Maple Grove did. I just like to make sure that we don't just jam everything, just take some of the positives and make our community, what we want it to be, and not just jam everything in there just to make a little extra buck, okay? If you can reduce the number of housing units in here by 30%, yeah, people might have to pay another $10,000 or $20,000 for their townhome or their, whatever they call them, carriage homes, but we alleviate some of the traffic. I don't know, I just think we'll have a little bit nicer, cleaner looking community, so that's all.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Yep.
We appreciate your comments.
Mr. Chair, I have no further cards. So is there anyone else that would like to approach the podium to make comments for the public record?
Anyone who did not fill out a card? Yes, sir.
We got a card here, we didn't know.
Okay.
So.
I'm Philip Colthrati, I live in Annandale. This is Glenn Colthrati, lives in Buffalo. Our family has been farming the adjacent property to the last 4 or 5 generations. We're not anti-development, we just want to make that clear. We're in the building, excavation, development industry. We have been our whole lives. Like, we understand it's coming. We're not here to make a case against that. We do have some concerns, though, notably with the cemetery, both existing and proposed, and then also the drainage on a pretty large portion of the property. Starting with the cemetery, when this was built in 2012, there was supposed to be screening installed, and I know in the staff report that states that that there were no complaints and that the adjacent property owner requests that this is not installed. That is not accurate. We have attempted to have the city revisit that a handful of times over the years, most recently on April 26th when we did meet with city staff here at City Hall. We brought that up as a concern, and I guess we never really pushed it that far because the existing cemetery is behind the wooded pasture on our property, so, it wasn't a huge deal, but now as the proposed, when that's built, that's out from behind the trees. It's very clear, it's in the wide open. And then two, as our farm is developed in the future, our pasture is wooded, but those trees are removed in the future. The existing cemetery is in the wide open, which at that point becomes a detriment to our property. So we absolutely would like to see screening on both the existing and the proposed cemetery, especially if you look at the elevations. It is, the existing cemetery it's up there. It's a lot higher than our farm is, and we do have photos to show that, that it is much higher up in the air. So visually it will stand out, and then also from a water drainage standpoint, everything is, I believe the existing cemetery, most of it flows to this pond here. But the future cemetery, everything's sloped to our farm. So, and we can tell you right now that just with the church and the existing parking lot, this pond does not handle all that water. We have photos to show that as well, that our pasture is flooded out. And those are oak trees, some 30, 40-inch oak trees. If anyone knows, oaks are very sensitive. It won't take a lot of water to make those trees disappear. So I just want to share these photos here. So that's looking south towards County Road 30, and that's looking north, just to show how high the existing cemetery is in relation to our farm. So we absolutely would like to see a buffer there, again, on the existing and the proposed cemetery. And also from a water drainage standpoint, the plans are not showing any swale at the property line, so that proposed cemetery, all that water comes onto our property. And then, you want to share that picture?
So this picture is, this picture here is from when, this is on a 2-inch rainfall. This is that, with the water that comes through here. This is the existing pond, comes through here, our property is up here, comes through there, floods that out. There's a 6-inch drain tile that's been there for 100 years. That's been put in, that's the only thing that drains. When this Hunter's Ridge was put in, all that, there's tiles out in that, and there's only a 6-inch tile there to drain everything. That photo that's going around, there's 7 feet of water over the top of that 6-inch drain tile right now. That's draining, and it goes over the top of the berm and goes from there to the west. Everything floods out, crops are washed, and so we gotta figure out how, at this point, we're gonna, retain some of this water from going there, because we can't handle it. We can't handle it on 2 inches. We all know our rainfalls are no longer 1 and 2 inch rainfalls. They're 10, 12-inch rainfalls, 5-inch rainfalls. And I hate to see, when we see all these hard surfaces and all these rooftops, impervious soils, where's this water gonna go? And I don't know if Natalie, if you can bring up the drainage plan.
I can't, I don't have it easily accessible at the moment.
So, I wish you had the drainage plan, because I'd like to go through some of that with you, where all this water's going. And, a lot of this water that's coming from the water tower, a lot of these, on these ponds, they're coming down and they're dumping right out up here on the future along the cemetery up there. That water's all dumping out up there.
I do have an exhibit in my,
Yep.
and so our engineer can speak to some of this as well, but I appreciate this one.
Yep. So, with that said, there's, when a lot of this water is being trapped, or when it's running through these infiltration ponds, you know, you look at the EOFs on them, and the EOF brings that water all the way back around, dumps it back on the property over here. It all comes back. And so if these ponds are full, we don't talk about snow, where's snow storage going here? Ponds are gonna get pushed full of snow, what are we gonna do on a normal winter when all this snow comes, and then we get a rain in the spring, these ponds are full, these EOFs, they start running over, we're gonna get it over here. So,
And there's an email that, you know, between the residents, you know, the surrounding neighbors too, that says, you know, we're absolutely aware of the trapped water issue relative to the low point in the tree line.
that's over here. These are the residents over here.
Right, and says we've taken steps to alleviate this condition, namely to create a low point on our site to collect water and discharge it to the west. Water's been an issue on this property since Hunter's Ridge was built, and by putting those 20 row homes in, you know, all that water is shed into the west. About 2/3 of this property, from what we can tell, is shed into the west. So why are we continuing to kick the can down the road? And when our farm is developed, we have to deal with it. We've developed some properties ourselves, and, you know, water should stay on the property developing. Or, you know, why can't we, you know, we took some time, and Glenn has it here with them. We'd be more than happy to sit down with the applicant and the engineers of the city, and we think it'd be very simple to redirect this water to the northeast. And because that's where the fall is, there's a large wetland basin, you know, much larger than what's to the west.
You're
Okay,
talking
and
here, bringing
if
water
I-
out here.
If I could just
Go ahead.
interrupt, we do typically enforce 10 minutes.
Sure.
You're at 10 minutes, I'll
Okay.
give you another 2,
Yep.
okay?
So just a quick thing here with Hunter's Ridge, because these people are always concerned with their water here. They've got water going to the west pushing out on our property. If you look on the drainage plan, it's higher here than what it is down here. This water needs to come back through here and to get diverted to the northeast. It's where the water should go, not pushing it to the next farm or the next piece of property all the time. If you look at elevations on there, you can't push water uphill. You know, as we continue to farm, if the furrows or the plow furrows rise on the property lines, you know, that water only pushes farther out into all them houses on that side.
Understood, thank you. I have one question, where is this?
That's on,
That's where the
That's right
cemetery
here.
is.
on the cemetery right here.
That's the downslope facing, so the downslope is heading west into our farm. That's the existing cemetery.
Okay, what direction is that?
That's west.
West.
So
That's east?
correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's on top of the cemetery road. If you
Okay.
face that way.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Now's your time. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you back there.
I came in, I was on the Zoom call because I had to work at the
Oh.
basketball game for Maple Grove.
Sure.
So I apologize, I was on the Zoom call.
No worries, please state your name and your
My name is
address.
Nicole Alden. I'm 19913 Hillside Drive. I live right next to Johnson's. We're the first house on Hillside Drive. Horrible traffic. Just reiterating, I have a 16-year-old driver, and then I have a college-age student when she's home. Trying to get to school is impossible. And in lieu of all the people on that property, is there any way, I mean, and I'm going to say this from experience, the apartment buildings that are going in there, we're having 184, you know, in one unit and so on and so forth. Is there any way we can put something else there that would alleviate the number of people? And a lot of the times, the apartment buildings bring a lot of riffraff. I've seen it in Maple Grove. My parents live on Weaver Lake. I grew up on Weaver Lake. And ever since all those apartments and housing, the Section 8 housing went in, there's crime on Weaver Lake.
Well,
So that is a concern of mine, is the apartment buildings.
If I could just clarify, I don't believe that this is zoned for Section 8 housing, and I
Okay.
don't think that that is the intention of the developer.
Which is good, but still apartment buildings in general bring less, like if you had housing there, you tend to have different types of people than you do in apartments. That's not across the board, but I've just seen it happen in Maple Grove. And I don't want that to happen in Corcoran. I grew up in Maple Grove. We moved here in '73, went to church in Corcoran starting in '74. So I've been around. I've lived in Corcoran for 15 years. Lived in Maple Grove prior to that. So that is just a concern of mine that I don't want. Our neighborhood, like, I don't have a fear of anybody coming down our drive and stealing stuff. I don't. At all. But you put some apartment buildings in there, I now fear that that's going to change. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you
Thank you.
for coming. Are there any more? Yes. And please state your name and address.
Corey Hickman, so 20081 Hunters Ridge, right next to the farm, the Corcoran farm there. Couple things I just want to bring up on it. We talked about the cul-de-sac, so our road is considered it's a cul-de-sac right now. It's open to future run-through, which would create a lot of interesting stuff, because it'd go right through the middle of my pond, which my pond collects a bunch of their water. We have a lot of water that comes into our property. We actually have my neighbor and myself, we have some parking area stuff, and I'd say 30% of it fills up with water anytime of heavy rain or spring and fall. There's a drain tile that runs through the back of our development that they mentioned already. And that water actually, some of that drain tile actually dumps into our pond, which is the middle of the road if they ever ran that road through. We've requested to have that ended at least, so the road can never go through. Because like I said, the pond's in the way, there's concrete pillars, there's a lot of stuff in the way between my house and a few other houses. So drainage is one issue. The high density is a big issue as far as we look at it for parking. As mentioned, as far as, I just had a meeting here actually this afternoon with Maple Grove on a church, and they have a lot of issues going on with the church because it was built many years ago, and things were approved at that time, and now today's come along, and Maple Grove looks very different, and the city's going, well, yeah, we approved a lot of stuff, and we're regretting that now. I just don't want to see us in the situations that we approve something that we regret 20 years down the road, 25, 30 years down the road. The high density, County Road 30, 116, I drive out of it every single day, and it's full now. Now I can't imagine adding hundreds of homes, what that would do to that particular area. The commercial stuff on the corner, I really don't have a lot of issue or concern around that stuff. It's really the high density and the townhouse project that probably makes the biggest thing, and water drainage is, I guess, a big part. But also another thing I brought up was parking on Hunters Ridge. I operate a service company. We work in townhomes every day. There is no parking in townhomes in Maple Grove and any other city I've ever been in. And people end up on the roads, and they overflow to the roads, and it becomes a large city battle. And I feel a lot of it would roll off Hunters Ridge, and we would deal with a lot of that stuff, and it could create a lot of future issues. So I just want to make that statement that, yeah, I'm definitely not very supportive of the multi-housing in the area. You're taking a really nice neighborhood that somebody sold, and now they want to make it a commercial profit center. And I guess we're just not real supportive of that. That's kind of our reason of moving to Corcoran. So that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate your comments. Yes, sir. You in the back? Please state your name and your address.
My name is Peter Smeal, and I'm on 20041 Hunters Ridge. So I'm next to Corey there, so I'm on the south side. So really nothing that hasn't already been shared, but just want to reiterate that the concern for the density being very high, and the water issue, we share that drive, and it's often underwater now. So we're concerned that that's going to be an issue. And I think the general density being too high, and that as much as they tried to work this corner to be a transition, it just feels very abrupt from our neighborhood to townhomes and villas and things, just too much. So we would ask that we just try to pare back. So pretty much reiterate what everybody said. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight. Yes, sir. Please state your name and your address.
I can do that.
Thank you.
My name is Greg Woody. I live on 21040 County Road 10, so I'm not right next to this. But I've lived in Corcoran for 40 years plus. This is probably way late in the game. Is this a lock that this is going to happen? Is this a lock that this development is going to happen?
Well, this is proposed. This is in front of the city right now. We are the planning commission, so we hear the plan, and then this commission makes a recommendation to city council.
Okay, I used to go to a lot of meetings years ago. I haven't been in a long time. And I was here shortly after the church bought the property, and then the church wanted to develop this and develop that. And I remember the people asking the church, are you a church or are you a property developer? What are you? You gotta be one or the other. Is this, all this property owned by the church, or is the church sold it to someone else and they're developing it? I'm like most people, at least what I've heard tonight, is the density of this seems enormous to me. And I've been here, like I said, a long time, and a lot of the people, virtually everybody I talk to that lives in Corcoran, they like it because it's still rural. And everything that you want or need is 6 or 8 miles away in Maple Grove. I see all this development. One thing I would like to see in Corcoran is maybe some food, a nice restaurant, but I didn't see that here anywhere. And I don't know, this seems, like everybody has said, 116 and 30, right now, if you're there at 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, and the same thing in evening rush hour, it's kind of it's congested, I'll let it go at that. And to pour all these other homes in there.
If I could just respond to your one comment.
Sure.
My wife's a pretty good cook. You're welcome anytime.
Well, I'm divorced and I've been cooking for a long time, and it's terrible. I can do my own, so. That's really all I had. I'm not a fan of this. You know, if I had to say, I would say no, but that's just my opinion, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. The density just seems crazy. Everybody in Corcoran, the amount of development has just exploded with homes, And here's another 600 plus. I'm not sure that.
Could I play the devil's advocate and ask you a question?
You most certainly can.
Do you think that landowners are entitled to do with their property what they want to do?
100%. So I'm like this. Both my folks, they grew up on farms, dirt poor, and I mean dirt poor. And the farmers today that are, you know, I'm happy for them to make the money, you know, because the land is worth $1 gazillion, and more power to them. But with that said, I don't want to see every tree in Corcoran leveled. I don't want to see pavement and homes everywhere. If you want that, why didn't you stay in Maple Grove? People left Maple Grove and came to Corcoran for a reason, and it's going away, and it's going away fast. And I know my personal opinion ain't going to change that. It's not going to put the brakes on it, but I just want to let you know how I feel. I've been a resident here, like I said, 40 plus years.
Well, I hope that you start coming to more meetings, and I do appreciate your comments, and I think that a lot of people agree with you. And, you know, I just thank you for coming here and being heard.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
might take you up on your ways quick.
My name is Catalin Dima, and actually I represent this 15.76 acres, the Corcoran Investment LLC. And no, the land was not sold to us recently.
I'm sorry, could you back up? What is your name and what is your address?
Catalin Dima. Actually, I used to live in Corcoran. Right now, I live in Hanover.
Okay, all right.
And I'm the president of this LLC that partner with Hope Church.
So he's one of the applicants.
There's 4 applicants altogether.
Okay, all right.
And this land was purchased by Corcoran Investment LLC over 2 decades ago, with the understanding that it's going to be developed in the commercial property. So it's not something that we own this land the last 6 months and we want to put something there big. Something else that we want to just make it very clear. From the beginning, we want to make everything accessible, but also a win-win situation. We care about the residents, we care about the Hope Community Church, And our intent is to just accommodate everything. But at the same time, try to bring rate of return to the investor that purchased this land, with an understanding that the city told them that it's going to be developed eventually in the commercial land. Our goal is to accommodate, as I said, and address all the issues that might be raised, but at the same time, we would like to just see this project develop. That's it.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we may want to consider a 5-minute
Kathy.
time limit.
I'm sorry.
May want to consider instituting a 5-minute time limit.
And folks, I want everyone to be heard. We do, just because, you know, I want to be mindful of everyone's time, I would just ask to keep comments to 5 minutes if you can, okay? All right. Could you please state your name and address?
Diane Patternes, 19795 Hunters Ridge. And knowing, I wasn't planning on talking, but a lot of this was referred to as wanting to accommodate in that, but I think a lot of the problem is coming here. And when Luther bought Hope Community Church, we want to be a good neighbor, we want to fit in. But, and I know a lot of stuff is about money, but according to basis of January 2023, I think it was a council meeting, this would land 12.5% of the population of Corcoran, right here. I mean, 12.5%, like someone said, in these little bit right there. We understand development, but excessive, and everyone's talking about traffic now. And I understand the rights, I don't know how, but yeah, 12.5%, that's crazy. Or maybe, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's appropriate, I think it's excessive, but I just want to give you my input.
So if I could ask you a question, so your primary concern is the high density?
High density and traffic, like
Okay.
everyone keeps saying. Right now, the traffic, and I can't imagine, like Mr. Bartle said, going 10 trips per unit, which comes out of national, if that's not made up. I just can't imagine how that's going to be managed or accommodated. It just seems so excessive. But thank you for listening.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Yes. And again, if you could please keep your comments to 5 minutes. I know that you were up here once already.
My name's Carrie Johnson, and we pointed out where we lived before.
Okay.
My husband and I grew up in Maple Grove. We moved to Corcoran 2 years ago, so I know that we're very new compared to everybody else here. But I do consider us the future of what Corcoran holds. The part that's scary about all this, which everybody keeps bringing up, is this paves the way for what the rest of Corcoran's going to look like. And we're going to be here in 30, 40 years, and this is not what any of us want to see. And I think, like everybody's pointed out, it's this area that feels so inappropriate, and we're going to be the ones around to see Corcoran end up like that.
Yeah, which area?
All the high density and where everything's shoved into one small area.
Okay.
We're going to be the ones that are going to be around to see that. We have a 5-year-old daughter. We plan to not leave, but this would make everybody leave. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
1 20-second question, I forgot. It's a good question.
Okay.
I forgot about that. If you want me to repeat my name, Corey Hickman, Hunters Ridge. 610 is obviously dumping out by Maple Grove Menards. I expected a tremendous traffic load to County Road 30. I've been doing a lot of study of this. I'm working with the Quick Trip there that's being developed. I'm working with a lot of development land there in Maple Grove. We're expecting a massive load of traffic from 610. So now 610 added to this, how has that been considered, or has it been considered, is my only question. Because it's expected to be big, not in a good way.
Okay.
So it's a question.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Oh, I was just gonna say, once we, well, never mind, keep going. I'll just wait till that time.
Okay. Any more comments? Yes. And as I've said, please state your name and your address, please.
Mike Pattison, I'm at 20400 Duffy Circle, which is just to the west and south of the development.
Okay.
Is there going to be plans to install traffic control lighting, stoplights, to control the amount of traffic coming out of the church property at this corner, and then the future up here by the apartment building? Because this is on, over the crest of the hill, that this is 55-mile-an-hour traffic coming over that hill, past the point. And they're going to be coming out, stepping out into that from this driveway that we're proposing here. So that's not what we would want to see, is another traffic light sitting on top of the hill. Because no one's going to see it. They're already over the hill at the time of turns. They blow this light daily. We slow down 40 going to that stop every day because there's always somebody pulling that light. And I can't tell you, I think they've got this pulled on this corner 3 times? Once a year at least. 3 times since I've lived here in a year and a half.
And how many accidents?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, and it just, the amount of traffic that's going to be generated here is just beyond belief. That's not why I moved here, because I moved out of the city to get out here. I'm not in favor of the high-density housing of these 2 apartment buildings. That's just not going to be joyful driving on those roads. They're already a racetrack. That's all right.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Sure, certainly.
I'm not going to comment on the substance of it. So my name is Ken Gunther, 6315 Butterworth Lane, and it's really more a matter of introduction maybe to the commission itself and the audience. I'm the commissioner that represents the city of Corcoran on the Elm Creek Watershed Commission, and the Watershed Commission is the organization that reviews all of the proposals within the city, within the watershed actually, across the various cities. And makes recommendations based on how the engineering will manage all of the water, surface water related issues. So to the extent that community members might be interested in hearing how the watershed goes about its business and how that impacts the decisions that the city makes, I'm willing to talk to you and explain all of that for you. I can't really speak to the specifics of this project because the commission hasn't received the project yet. If it goes forward, the commission will receive it and review it, and that's an independent review. The commission has its own engineers that review the project and all of that. So I just wanted to make that so everybody knew that that is also another level of review that's open, and it's also open to public comment, open forum, the public meetings and all of that. So if you're interested in following something as it proceeds through the process, that's another venue for you to address concerns or have questions answered or see, how the project is being developed. And I just wanted to have that.
Thank you. Any more comments? No? Okay. Sir, if you could, please step up. Now, the attendees had some...
Wait, close public hearing?
No. No. So the attendees had some questions, and I think that you're in a better position to answer them than I am. So I heard concerns about traffic, water, high density, riffraff, but we're not going to talk about riffraff, okay? So how would you like to respond to the folks here?
Sure. Yeah, so...
and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, please.
So.
This is exactly the forum to do it. I would say some of these things I might be able to lean on staff, but I can certainly answer them to the best of my ability. I think some of the consternation regarding traffic, certainly, I guess on the broad level, we've performed the EAW, which includes a significant traffic study that was completed by the city's consultant, Stantec. That report was submitted to Hennepin County, MnDOT, several other entities that had reviewed its contents for consistency with their approaches relative to measurement of traffic and trip generation. So I can certainly understand if you're the person that's going and, you know, sitting at these exits every day or these entrances to 116 or 30 and saying, hey, I'm having to wait a little bit longer than I used to, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. And understandably so that, hey, if you add some additional residences, that your traffic would be worse. There's a measurement and study that's been completed for all of that through the EAW process, and through the EAW process, this plan did not kind of trip any concerns relative to Hennepin County within its right-of-way. I would say, to answer the question regarding signalization, there is a potential signalization at 116, if I recall, that they're looking at. Once again, no timeline for this. It's going to be really generated by the data that they get once, you know, what they call signal warrants. They have to do a study to complete, to basically justify the need for a signal. And that same thing would be the case up at County Road 30 as well. Likely, the signal warrants wouldn't be hit until additional development on the south side of County Road 30 were to occur, if and when it does so.
Quick question.
Yes.
Who did the traffic study?
Stantec, so the
Stantec?
city's engineer.
Say
The
that?
city's engineer.
The city's engineer?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
So you hired the city's engineer to do the traffic study?
Okay, so we hired the city to complete an EAW process, and a part of that process is a traffic study that's completed by the city's engineer.
And it's not, just to clarify, it's not that we were hired, it's that our typical process is the city leads those studies, and they do fund it, so.
Sure, no, I get that. So you'd agree with me, though, that, that residents would know better about traffic than an engineer who happens to work here?
I would not agree with you.
You would not agree?
I wouldn't.
All right, hey, guys, no, guys, please.
No, I mean, give me a chance to explain, please. I understand.
Please.
There's an anecdotal experience of like, hey, you're out there sitting at a stop sign waiting to turn, and then there's the data that is generated from a traffic engineer. If that's the case, then why would we have traffic engineers, right?
Sure.
We just would listen to the public. There's a reason why we have to go through this very detailed study, and I have to understand this. And frankly, we have to go and get the data after this is constructed as well.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you, and I don't mean to be snarky or anything like that. I'm just trying to understand. You know, you said, well, then we would just listen to the public.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I hate to interrupt.
Yeah.
This is deliberation. We need
Okay.
to close the public
All
hearing.
right, I'm gonna, okay, we're gonna close the public meeting. Can I get a motion?
Public hearing.
Or public hearing?
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, please.
Oh, you're asking a question.
Yeah, so my question is, you know, I want to make sure that your intent was clear, because sometimes, you know, words come out differently and they're interpreted differently than they're intended. And, you know, so I want to help you here. You said that, well, if that were the case, we would just listen to the public.
Yeah,
But-
let me be clear.
but-
Can I clarify?
But you can, but you would agree that the public's input is important to this proceeding,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
Okay.
Of course. So I guess to clarify, we would engineer by consensus is kind of where I'm getting, is if there wasn't a need for detailed study and the use of data, then this would be a democratic situation where we could vote on whether or not there's enough traffic or whether or not there's enough stormwater. There's no measurement or actual empirical data to do so. So my point would be, we did go through this process that is outlined not only by the city, but by the state and the federal government in terms of how we went about this process through the EAW. I understand like the implications of additional density, particularly the density that's been afforded to the site through the mixed use designation in the comprehensive plan, will no doubt increase traffic. We know exactly how much. I don't have it offhand. We know exactly how much based on that engineering study that's been completed as a part of that EAW process. So as a part of that EAW process, there wasn't deemed a need for additional turning lanes or anything else.
Well, that's not quite true. So typically, I answer some of these questions to get go. So the traffic improvements that were identified included turn lanes at the development entrances on the county roads, as well as an extension of the turn lane that I have it circled. So,
Yes, my apologies, Natalie.
Yes,
I was
so-
speaking on site, yes.
oh yeah, on site, no.
Sure.
So, but as far as the feasibility study identified, off-site improvements include turn lanes at the development entrances and a turn lane extension to County Road 30 and County Road 116. The warrants for lights have not been met, and unfortunately, that is not a city decision ever on these county roads. It's a county road decision. But as far as the improvements needed to support the increased traffic, that is a requirement for this development to proceed.
Okay, thank you.
And could I just make one comment as well, is that the mayor has already talked to our local state representative about the need for something to be done about County Road 30. The bonding bill that was passed last year at the state was used for our, to help us implement our water system. You can correct me if I'm incorrect. And so that, like, they are advocating. But because it works through multiple layers of government, it does take some time. And not unfortunately, that's the wrong word, but a lot of times you have to wait until the need is there in order to get the funds to be loosened or available by those different layers of government.
And if I could, my name's Jay Tobin. I'm your new city administrator. I've been here about 6 weeks. This is my 6th week here. Thank you. The comment that was brought up about 610 is going to have significant impact on our community. I was at a I-94 chamber meeting on Tuesday with the mayor. We met with elected officials. This is a very important conversation for us. We recognize the traffic. We recognize the condition of County Road 30. And to Natalie's point, we're really subject to what the county's willing to do. Now, there have been other jurisdictions, for example, Maple Grove, where they've taken the county road and at their own expense, they've improved it because the county has not cooperated with them to do it. But we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars to do that as a city project. And right now, that's not within our budget. That's not what it would do to your taxes. Wouldn't really be desirable right now. So we're kind of constrained by what the county will collaborate with us. And we're advocating with everybody that will listen to us. We've done resolutions, particularly related to County Road 30, in recognition of how this is going to impact our community. And we will continue to do that. So it's very helpful to get your feedback in order to take your feedback to these elected officials at the state level and say, and at the county level, our county commissioner, and say, these are the concerns of our community. I can point them to this video. We're concerned about the density on our roads. It's already 3,000 trips a day. 3,000 just on County Road 30. If you didn't have, there's a data point for you that's pretty shocking. That goes right through that intersection at 116 and 30. And so something needs to happen, and we're trying to make it happen, but our only option to do it on our own isn't a realistic option. So we'll do what we can. I just wanted to touch that point, that nobody says it's not a problem on County Road 30.
Thank you. There were two additional concerns, and I want to give you the opportunity to respond. I heard concerns about water and high density. So if you would like to address either one of those, and if you could keep your comments brief, I'd like to keep this moving.
Yes, so can I address one other thing just
of course.
Really quickly since it was brought
fair
up?
enough, yes.
One of the neighbors, my apologies, I forgot your name.
The Johnsons.
The Johnsons, thank you. Had mentioned a driveway easement that was to serve the site. So one of the things that the city has recommended as a part of this report, and maybe Natalie, you can kind of point to where it is, but we're actually, instead of providing the 20-foot easement that was privately agreed to between the church and that outlot parcel, we're actually dedicating a 50-foot right-of-way to serve that parcel, which would also stub utilities into that parcel as well. So that concern, hopefully that addresses that individual concern. Relative to, I'll pick off multifamily first. So multifamily housing or high density housing in this case is one of our options for a mixed-use district, that's a mixed-use guidance. In fact, I would argue that we would not be able to, how can I say this? We would not be able to meet the minimum density requirements without some sort of high-density residential on this project. Those density requirements are set by your comprehensive plan, which is required for the Met Council. And one of the reasons that we do that, or the cities are required to do that, is to justify expenses like sewer, water, additional funding for the Met Council, from the Met Council for roadway improvements as a part of any Hennepin County project. It's intended to create a more dense, it is intended to create a more dense locus from which to support that type of infrastructure. In this particular instance, this is a unique property for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons we're even here tonight, we're having this discussion, is that Corcoran has decided to build out a water and wastewater treatment facility, which really is what allows this type of expansion of density, and frankly is going to pay for it. The water and sewer essentially is going to extend through this site to other parts of Corcoran, and it's going to allow additional development. So while I understand from a resident perspective that that's frustrating, it's different from what you might have moved into, it is coming. And we're just the kind of the first project that's coming here. And to your point, we're not going to be the last mixed-use development that this Planning Commission and Council sees. We are the first. Well, this is a major intersection in the city of Corcoran. I don't have to tell you. This is intended to, this medical facility was something that was dreamed up when this church first developed, along with the senior living. These retail buildings, and some sort of commercial is intended to be a place to get your hair cut, a place to grab a coffee, those kind of things that are more neighborhood retail and commercial opportunities. It's meant to serve the amount of people that are going to be wanting to be your neighbors in the future. This is just what's in front of you in terms of how to kind of build that foundation to support the amount of growth that Corcoran's about to see because of the decisions to have a water tower and wastewater treatment facility.
Just real quick, Chair Landryman, may I talk about the MUSA?
Yes, sir.
In Met Council. All of you guys, have you I'm Dean Bearcamp, I'm one of the council members. I'm one of the 5 people that are gonna make this decision and such, with everybody's input. Does everybody understand who the Met Council is? Yes. Who doesn't? The Met Council, a long time ago, was the one that determined sewer and water services throughout the metropolitan area, okay? Who doesn't know what MUSA is? Good, how about that? I'm smarter than I look. Metro Urban Service Area, okay? That is a boundary set by the Met Council.
You're absolutely
city
right.
administrator is set by the Met Council, and then the cities are responsible for servicing those things. Metro, excuse me, what did I say?
Metropolitan urban wide.
So they want to help Corcoran become urban?
They define where the boundaries are for water and sewer services, okay? I'm saying it very, very simple, okay?
If I could help you for a second there.
Please.
So within the MUSA, that's going to be the area that is going to be served by sewer and stormwater and these other services. That's where it's going to extend to. Is that helpful? It's not saying specific urban, it's defined by what services are available.
And that boundary has been set by the Met Council. Every 10 years, that's revisited, and that just recently in
2018 was the last one, and it will be revisited again in 2028.
It expanded out beyond this property to the Coffrady property south, and then it jiggles around and heads all the way down to Hackamore, our southern border. So we are responsible to get services to that boundary. And that's what this is. This is part of that area.
And
So,
Councilman,
just so everybody knows.
we also are required to have high density in those areas.
We're supposed to have
3 units
all
per acre
kinds of, densities, an overall average for that area, as Natalie just said, roughly 3 units per acre.
If you want to accept the money, but if you don't want to accept the money, you don't have to.
We're turning into a debate, guys. I'm sharing with you guys, so.
Okay.
So, and I, just to correct you, sir, we're at an overall density, I think the one thing that was missed here is it's a 53-acre parcel, 40 of which is a part of this development. We are, the reason that the church is included in the PUD is simply because we're trying to create a linkage between the senior building and the church, so that these seniors don't have to go outside, you know, in the middle of winter if they're wanting to have some sort of cross-servicing. So it's a 40-acre of development, 18 and change density?
Yes, so that was one of the items I was going to talk on, I appreciate it. So I tried to touch on this in the staff report, as well as the presentation. So it's 40 acres gross, and then, or I'm sorry, it was 43 net acres gross. No, the gross needs to go in.
Yes.
43 net acres.
Yes.
And half of that per our comp plan is anticipated, approximately half is how it's worded in the comp plan, so it does provide some flexibility in how it's applied, but is anticipated to be residential uses that develop at 8 to 30 units per acre. So that comes out to be a high end of about 656 units anticipated for this site to develop as mixed use. And they're proposing 641. And then when you actually take it's about 33 net acres is residential. The rest, 10 acres, is commercial. So the 33 net acres divided by, 642 divided by 33 comes out to be 18 units per acre, essentially. So that's where we're getting that density calculation. So it fits within the density anticipated for the overall site, and then when you look at it on a per acre average, it's 18 units per acre.
Those density, that is a range, correct? It was positioned as a range, and the 650 units was at the top of the range, and you're at 640 something, right?
653, 641 is the two numbers.
Right, but it's a range. The goal, the density goal is a range. And it's a fairly
So the general
variant
mixed
range.
use allows for density at 8 to 30 units per acre. That's what's allowed.
8 to 30.
Yeah.
174 to 656.
Yes.
Big range. Okay.
So,
Can I make one point that's
Please,
attached to
yes.
that? So when it was said the average in the MUSA needs to be 3 for the city, when you have a higher density area like this, then that allows us to then have lower density in other areas, because we've met our density requirements when you do the calculus. Does that make sense? So if you have a plot that has higher density, then the folks who are concerned that I'm going to have this everywhere, no, this ensures that we don't have this everywhere. It is going to have higher density in some areas, wherever it is. It's been planned for between 8 and 30, but the calculus of whether it's higher towards 30 or lower towards 8 impacts all the other development in terms of density requirements for the other spaces. That's that calculus going on.
I think that's a very important point for all of you to understand, and I want to thank you for making that. I understand that Natalie has some answers for some of the additional questions, but we've been going at this now for 2 hours. I'd like to recommend taking a 5-minute break. Any objections or?
Or I would just make an adjustment to that suggestion that we allow Natalie to answer the questions and then we take a break. And then if anyone would feel like their questions or comments were satisfied, they would be able to go home, and then the rest of us could continue our discussion.
Okay, fair enough. Natalie?
Okay, so I'm going to try to touch on as many questions as possible that were mentioned in the public hearing. Some of it's already been discussed. So it was asked at one point the commercial acreage for the site, and so it is 10 acres, and it's 10.003 acres, I believe is the exact number. And then there are traffic improvements proposed on the county roads, as we discussed. There was a question on how it impacts the ability to farm to the south. The rezoning to PUD only impacts the property in front of us. It does not rezone anything else surrounding it. Farming can continue as long as that landowner wants to farm. We are not forcing people to develop. It's just, should they sell it or decide to develop, they are in a guiding, depending on where they are exactly, there's a land use guiding they have to abide by. There was a question about why we aren't allowing multiple, or why we're not forcing or allowing multiple accesses to the county roads to serve the commercial. It is, again, not a city decision. Access is permitted and must be approved by the county. Our Northeast District Plan did identify the Hunter's Ridge, or currently Hunter's Ridge access, as well as that new access on County Road 30.